Hi everyone! Today we're going to be making two kinds of ganache, a dark chocolate ganache and a white chocolate ganache to top on brownies. I'll also show you how I make little chocolate letters to put on top of the brownies. So you'll need your favorite brownie recipe, or you can use mine, so I will leave a link to that below this video. Otherwise, let's go ahead and start the letters first. Here are the molds I'm using today. So this one is kind of infamous for being annoying to work with because of the small size of the letters, so here are a few things that might help. Because the finished chocolate pieces are so small, the chocolate sets really quickly. So to buy us a little bit of time, what I like to do is keep these molds warm in the oven. Use the lowest temperature setting that your oven offers. Mine has a warming function, but you could just use the bake function just the same. It doesn't need that long on the oven, only a few minutes or so, but that's perfect timing for us to get the chocolate ready. You can really use any chocolate that you like, and if you have experience with tempering, you can do that. I like using compound or coating chocolate for these small pieces because it sets really firm, which makes it easier to remove from these types of mold. This here is a brand called Merckens. We're not going to need very much since these letters are quite small and thin, so I'm going to take a small amount and melt it in the microwave. I usually do 30-second bursts at high power, stirring between every heating, but because I was heating up such a small amount, I ended up overheating them. Compound chocolate has this really unique characteristic in that it gets really thick when it's too hot. It's kind of counterintuitive. Anyways, it's a simple fix and you didn't ruin the chocolate. You just need to stir it and let it chill at room temperature, and as it cools, it will get a little bit thinner. Once it's nice and fluid, add it to a paper cone or piping bag. I do have a video on parchment paper cones if you want to learn how to make these. Your letter molds should be nice and toasty in the oven, so let's bring them over. I map out the letters I need by writing them on a piece of paper and pipe the letters in the message. That way I can mark on my paper if I need extra letters, and with this particular mold, there's only 2 copies of each letter, so you may need to repeat the process. Once you pipe all the letters that you need, make sure to hit your mold against the countertop many times to release the air bubbles that are stuck underneath the chocolate. Now we have to scrape the excess chocolate off the backs. This makes sure that the letters have sharp edges for each letter and make sure that they sit flat on the surface of your dessert. This is super important if you're doing like strawberries and breakable chocolates because you don't want any irregularities in height. Once it's mostly scraped clean, I put these in the freezer for a few minutes. Okay, after they're nice and set comes the nerve-wracking part, and the best way I've found to remove them is to gently pull the mold away from the sides, then push up from the bottom on the bulkiest part. I always have trouble with the letter H because it's so thin everywhere, but you may have your own special letter that gives you issues. So when in doubt, just make double letters when you're piping. That might save you some time in the long run. Once you've made all your letters, spell out your message to make sure it's all there and ready to go. And before you make the ganache, make sure you have everything ready. Your brownies, and I took mine out of the pan and onto a platter, and all of your decorations. So I have my letters and sprinkles and little chocolate crispy pearls. This recipe makes a little over a cup of ganache, which is plenty to spread over an 8x8 pan of brownies. So let's chop some chocolate. Grab your favorite bar of dark chocolate. It can be labeled as bittersweet or semi-sweet, but because we'll be combining it with heavy cream, it'll be a little less intense. In my opinion, I think dark really tastes great as a ganache. And we really want to chop it up because it'll melt more readily with the heavy cream. It doesn't have to be paper thin, but smallish chunks should work great. So grab a medium microwave safe bowl and add your heavy cream. I'm going to microwave mine until it's just steaming but not boiling. You can also use a double boiler if you like. In my 1200 watt microwave, this took just under 30 seconds. Immediately pour in all of your chopped chocolate and let that sit for about a minute to melt the chocolate just a little bit. It's gonna look muddy at first and then turn super glossy and smooth as you stir it. Grab your brownies and pour the ganache on top. Use a spatula to spread it all over. Once the ganache is applied, it's now time to decorate. So I always start with the letters and I work from the middle and work outwards. That way I can kind of identify the middle and make sure the spacing is somewhat even. add some sprinkles on the outside for some color. And know that the ganache does take a little bit of time to set, about 1 hour in the fridge. If you like the sweeter, milkier flavor of white chocolate or want to color chocolate for the tops of brownies, white chocolate ganache is the way to go. And the white chocolate that I'm using today is Callebaut, which comes in what's called these Calais, which are little discs that are slightly larger than a standard chocolate chip. I'm not going to chop them since they're already small sized. So grab your medium microwave safe bowl and heat your heavy cream until just steaming. Then add in all of your white chocolate. And I had this idea to do this cool marbling effect, but it ended up looking like doo-doo. I ended up scraping it all off, which is fine. We're just going to cover it all up. It turned into a purple ganache that I use for a brownie cake skull filling later. So I redid the white ganache and stuck to just one color, which is this rose from Kellermill. This is an oil-based coloring, but you can use gel. Because we're working with a ganache and not 100% chocolate, it's not going to seize from the water in the gel coloring. That's because cream has a high amount of water in it, almost 50 or 60%, I think. And that has essentially turned the ganache into a fat and watery emulsion, which can hold on to water without seizing the chocolate, which is kind of amazing.